Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to this week's episode of the M Word. As always, I'm Robin. I'm the Technical Director here at Man & Machine in the UK, and it's a pleasure to have you with me this afternoon to go through something a little bit different. Those of you new to these sessions, we air them, I'm going to say most weeks, but every Thursday, about 2 p.m, we come live on YouTube and go through one of the many Autodesk applications that we service and support here at Man & Machine, whether it's AutoCAD, whether it's Revit, whether it's Inventor, Fusion, a product design and manufacturing workflow, a media and entertainment workflow, a construction-based workflow. We share half hour or so of tips, tricks, how-to, new features, whatever it might be, to hopefully give you something that is of interest and beneficial, and hopefully save you some time and make something easier in your day-to-day lives. So if you haven't already, please give us a like, give us a subscribe, and all that stuff. Check out the channel. We've got a whole load of videos. I say the same thing every week when we come on. We've got a whole load of videos on there, a huge amount of content, some really good content from my team. So please check it out. But more importantly, reach out. Let us know what you want to see. Connect with us on LinkedIn, drop us a message, leave us a comment on here, and let us know what it is that you want to see. Ask us a question for us to answer live on air. Give us some feedback, and we will be very happy to make these sessions specific to what you guys, our loved audience, want to see. So today, we're going to look at an add-in for some of the Autodesk tools, namely AutoCAD, Inventor and Navisworks, called Factory Design Utilities. Now, Factory Design Utilities comes bundled inside of the Product Design Manufacturing collection, and it's a tool set that gives you some, I guess the clues in the name, some factory design workflows inside of AutoCAD, inside of Inventor and inside of Navisworks to help you create a layout, modify a layout, or even just look at some what-if scenarios and say, okay, what if I move this to there, or whatever it might be. Really useful tools, really user-friendly tools that can help massively if you're designing layouts, whether that's in 2D or in 3D. So we're going to have a little look at that today. We'll start off inside of AutoCAD, and then we will plow on and show you the workflow as well inside of Inventor. So without any further ado, let me share can't speak. It's freezing in here, so if I make a mistake or start shivering or just go blue, don't worry, it's just Baltic in this room. I don't know why. I'll try that again. Without any further ado, I'm going to share my screen and we'll go into AutoCAD. So, first point. This is an AutoCAD plugin, but it's designed for AutoCAD architecture. So a few years ago, Autodesk changed the way in which they positioned AutoCAD, and you now have AutoCAD including specialized toolsets. So when you buy AutoCAD, either on its own or as part of your collection, you will have umpteen different download options in your Autodesk account. For factory design utilities to work, you have to run AutoCAD architecture. So I've got AutoCAD Architecture 2026 installed, and you can see that I've got a factory tab at the top. So step one, AutoCAD Architecture, and install the factory design utilities. I'm just going to go ahead and create a brand new drawing, so a new DWG from scratch, and just create a nice blank environment for us to work with. Now, when you're using Factory, there are a load of palettes. You'll see here I've got a layout browser open for my Factory design. But if I go over to my Factory tab at the top on the ribbon, you'll see that I've also got a load of other palettes that I can turn on or off. Things like our material flow information, factory properties, an asset browser. Turn them on as you see fit. I'm going to turn them on as I need them. But you've got lots of specific factory menus and tool palettes and drop downs that will be of use to you as you go through this process. I'm probably going to drink more tea than usual today because it's so cold in this room. So do I apologise for that? No, I don't apologise to that. I'm cold. I'm going to drink my tea. So first thing I'm going to do is just give you an indication as to how easy you can get started inside of AutoCAD using Factory. In that you don't need to use any of the factory specific assets to start exploring and start playing around with this tool. As with all of these videos, I always start from a blank canvas because I like to think, correct me if I'm wrong, but I like to think that it's easier to follow. It's easier to use this as a step-by-step tutorial and get something working. So the first thing I'm going to do is just imagine that I've got a few stations here. So I'm going to go ahead and draw the world's most complicated factory. Let's say that our factory is, I don't know, 25 meters by 22.5 meters. So there is my really big, really complicated factory. And for argument's sake, we're going to say that around that factory, we've got some columns that I need to stay away from. I'm doing this really by eye, but I'm going to imagine that there's columns in each corner of the building, something that looks like that, maybe one slap bang in the middle, and maybe some more just in this area here. So very rough and ready, but you get the idea. I've got some components. So this is my floor plan, if you like. And then what I'm going to do with this is I'm going to imagine that I'm placing down some stations or areas of my factory where material or products flow. We're using AutoCAD, so I'm going to say that we've got a square and circle factory that makes square and circles. So I'm going to come up and draw a circle, and with that circle I'm literally just going to draw AutoCAD geometry. So I'm going to draw a circle here. I'm going to draw another circle on the bottom right hand corner. Maybe let's just move that one along. My microphone is in the way. For some reason it's a lot lower than it usually is. It's annoying me. So I'll do another circle down there, and then we'll do a couple of squares. I'll put one there, and we'll put one, just to confuse us, in the middle of these two columns, just here. So I can draw any geometry, and I can tell AutoCAD that that geometry is related to my factory layout. So to do that, you go to my factory tab, and we want to open up a palette that's going to look at our material flow. Typically they've opened up on my other screen, so I'm just going to drag them across, like so. We'll just close the assets one for now. So I've got this material flow browser. So the first thing I want to do, using off-the-shelf AutoCAD lines, arcs and circles, is look at how I can flow product or material or something around a factory and start looking at that. So I can create stations. A station is an area that houses a product or processes a product or houses a material or processes a material. So I'm going to create a station. I'm going to call this my circle machine. And after giving a name, AutoCAD's going to prompt me to select the geometry that is related to that station. And I'm going to select this circle at the top left of my screen. You can select more than one. I'm just going to choose one and press enter. That will create a dynamic link between this geometry and this station. It needs to have a connector. I'm just going to put it slap bang in the middle. And we now have a circle machine created. And you'll see it's got this little node or snap point in the middle. I'm then going to create another one, which is going to be called circle storage. And against my circle storage, I'm going to assign this piece of geometry, and I'm going to choose this as a connector. I'm going to do exactly the same things for my rectangle. So let's create another one and call this rectangle machine. A really amazing machine that makes rectangles. Let's come in and place the connector, just eyeball it in the middle. And then we shall create another one and call this rectangle storage. So you kind of get the idea. I'm selecting geometry that relates to something that's going to store a process or be storage. And what I'm kind of getting at is I've got maybe a CNC machine here that's pushing out a circle, and then that has to be placed on this shelf over here that stores the circle, so on and so forth. So I've got my stations. I then go ahead and look at my products. I can create products, and I can say that we make circles, or circle, should I say. So I've got a circle, and I've got a square. These circles, I can create routing. So any product that we create, I can choose to route. So I want to choose my circle, and I want to right click and create a routing for my circle. And then either from my model area, from my model space, or from my stations browser, I can choose a route. So I'm going to say it needs to go from the circle machine to the circle storage. And you can see that AutoCAD draws a lovely line onto my screen. It's literally an as the crow flies, okay? But it goes and places that onto my machine. I can then, or onto my model space. I can then say return, and we can see that I then have a routing with a job that's taking a circle from the circle machine and putting it in the circle storage. I can create another one, so I'm going to right click my square and create a routing, and I'm going to go from my rectangle machine into my rectangle storage, and I'm going to press enter. That's created 2 routes. Those routes can be seen. So if I click on either one of those jobs, we can see those jobs. We can see that we have a path of travel between those 2 points. But more importantly, because that's visual, we can play around with things. We can grab this component, including said connector. We can choose to move it, and then I can literally pick that up and move that around. So I'm going to move my storage over into the corner just here. So I've moved my square storage over into the top right hand corner. If I go and have a look at that job on my screen, you will see that the job and the path has been updated to that new location. So by moving my geometry or block or asset or whatever you have around your drawing, the route that I'm taking, my path of travel or my operation, is updating accordingly. I can select that job, and I can choose to tweak that path should I want to. So if I come in and look at this particular route, maybe I want my route there to be, I don't know, a little bit more specific. I don't want it to be straight. Maybe there's a big fence in the middle here, or something that I need to be able to reroute or route around. I can create my own custom routing in here, should I want to, against these routes. I can also start extracting or updating information about any of those specific jobs. So let's take my circle job. Let's right click on my operation 1, which is going from the circle machine to the circle storage. And I'm going to right click and I'm going to say redefine path. From there, you can see that I've got 2 options: direct, straight line, or path. I'm going to press P, enter on the command line to be able to define a path. And from there, you can see that we are in good old AutoCAD. I can literally come and snap and track as much as I need to make a more specific path. Okay? So I'm just going to go completely to the left, the right, and then completely down. So I've updated that path. If I right click and choose properties against that job, I get these factory properties pop up. Let's move them into the middle of my screen here. So what I can do is I can say, okay, I've got a job. Remember, that job is based on a product. So I can see here that that has a desired production rate per day, part quantity, and a batch size. And I can control these. So I want to make 100 a day. I'm going to say that I make them in batches of 1, for example, or maybe in batches of 2. So I can update the job. And then against each operation, I can tell Factory in AutoCAD Architecture what it does. So I can say, what's the processing time against this particular thing? So let's say that we've got a 10-minute processing time and a 3-minute setup time. I can say that the transportation for that operation is a human. Maybe he's taken some stock and put it into the CNC machine. That will then have a travel speed, a cost rate per minute, load and unload time, direction. Is it one direction? Is it bi-direction? Is it a discrete flow? Is it a continuous flow? So I can control each area of this and decipher from that how long specific operations take. So again, I can come onto this second operation. I can say that the processing time for this one is minimal, it's 2 minutes, and it takes 1 minute to set up. By doing that, I'm giving information into this particular flow, and I can start seeing how this job, how this operation is affecting, or more how this particular process is affecting that desire to have 100 products out when I'm making a batch size of 2. If we do the same thing over here against job 2, I'm just going to right click the operation and redefine the path. Using a path, I'm going to come up to the middle, around the outside, and then finish my path like so. I'm going to leave all of the rest of the options on here as default, but maybe I'm going to change the storage to say that it's a forklift that's taking it to the storage. From there, I'm going to go across to my Factory tab, and you see under Material Flow, I've got this Transportation. If I click Transportation, it starts giving me visual feedback on my model space of the transportation as it's going around the factory. I can also look at specific machine processing. And from there, I can start to get information or feedback on each of those individual processes to identify if I've got downfalls, if moving a storage from one location to the other, or whatever it might be, I can start to get that information back. If I go and have a look at each of those stations in turn, I can get properties to put uptime in there, running costs in there, and I can really use that to my advantage by coming in and identifying, based on what I've told it, this is the information it's going to give me back. So it could be quite useful. Again, those what-if scenarios, they allow you to move things and get that feedback quickly and easily. So against each operation, we can control, see what's going on, and extract that information from the model. As well as working with these kind of native AutoCAD tools, we can also use assets inside of here. So I'm just going to delete all of this and start again. So let's create a brand new drawing from scratch. And then with this drawing, I'm going to come in and place some assets. So I can go into an asset browser whereby I can place assets that are just provided by default. You can create your own, but I'm just going to place some assets from the Autodesk cloud into my layout. And for the purpose of this, I'm going to pick up a conveyor. So let's just say that we want a bi-flow accumulator. Let's download that asset. We're going to have these 3 air conveyors. And you'll notice that once you've downloaded them, the little icons go green to show that they're ready to move. So I've got 3 air conveyors. So I'm going to grab a straight air conveyor and drag and drop it in onto my asset, onto my layout. I click it once to define the location. I click it again to define the rotation. Once you've placed one, you can snap them together just with good old AutoCAD snaps to create multiple iterations of this. My snapping is going to be a pain there. Let's create a second one. You notice without my auto snaps on, it's using a factory snap. So it's allowing me to snap these together. I'm going to drag and drop a curved one in, just to place a curved asset. Snap that on there. And then maybe let's place a vertical one over here. So we can place down some conveyors. Let's come in and place in maybe some safety equipment in here, a guardrail, and let's just have a, what do we want? Let's go with a barrier gate double, I guess. I was hoping for a, there we go, safety fence system, that's what we want. High fence, that one, right click, download, and let's place that into my model. Click once and then click again to place those informations. And then maybe let's come in and choose something that's going to create something. Why don't we go with, I don't know, what have we got here? Process equipment, that'll do. Let's go with a CNC machine. We'll put a Haas on there, and we'll put on a TM1, that'll do. Let's drag and drop that into my model, let it download, drag and drop it in, and then place on that over. Oops, don't press spacebar. Click it once and then place it again. So as you can see, these are just places AutoCAD blocks, but it's starting to generate a layout using these factory assets. Again, these could be used in your material flow to start looking at what's going on. More crucially, when you're working with a really large factory, it's much quicker and it's much easier to create layouts in 2D without having to worry about what's going on in 3D. But it's also useful to see that information in 3D and maybe collaborate with people in 3D for viewing or even for further design. For example, let's imagine that we're designing a new machine or a new welding bay or something like that inside of Inventor. To be able to push this and synchronize this in Inventor to collaborate actively would be really powerful. So if I save this design, I'm just going to put it on my desktop and save it. And I'm going to say open in Inventor. What AutoCAD's going to do is close the file, open Inventor, open the file, download the relevant 3D assets for the factory that we've created, and it's going to create a factory layout using those same assets directly inside of Inventor, all coordinated around the 0, 0 point. So if we give it a few seconds, we will see over on the right hand side, it starts placing my conveyors, it starts placing my equipment, and everything starts being positioned in space the way that we want it to. So here is my machine, here's those fences that I've put up, and here are my conveyors. Anytime these can be edited here directly inside of Inventor. And you can see in Inventor we've got our own controls. So I can grab these three components and I can move them around. So using the factory properties, I could grab this one and I could say that I want to put the height on here as 0. He says, oh sorry, the elevation as 0. And I can move the elevation down and set that onto the floor. This one I've decided I don't want, so I'm going to delete it out of the design. And you'll notice that underneath my 3D assets in Inventor, I have the AutoCAD 2D that still exists. So it's underlaid so that I can see what effect something has on the 2D flow. So I've deleted that, that conveyor here. And then what I'm going to do is show you that I can add components here directly inside of Inventor. So let's go ahead and say that I want to look at my asset browser in Inventor. Let's go to my system assets again. Let's go to my conveyor again. Let's go to my air conveyor and let's place on there a straight air conveyor. You can see it's already downloaded because it's downloaded the asset inside of AutoCAD. Once the asset's been downloaded inside of AutoCAD, it is readily available to be used inside of Inventor as well. So we can place that other one just there. Let's come in and maybe place some other components. So let's go and place a pallet down. Let's go with a pallet conveyor and download that one. And just place some components directly inside of Inventor. The process is the same. We place the components in by dragging and dropping from the asset browser, and that allows us to place them down just like any other part, subassembly or component inside of Inventor. We've got lots of snapping tools, so if we hover any one of these green snap points, they will snap. I'm just going to place it down anywhere in the model like so to place that pallet conveyor down. Anything that we add in here directly inside of Inventor, I can then synchronize directly back into AutoCAD. So I've changed this conveyor here where I made a change and an update. I've added a couple of bits and pieces in. So we've got this pallet conveyor and let's also put in here a trolley conveyor as well. Again, these are all off-the-shelf assets. We can create your own should you want to. But with those created, it's also important to note that I can move assets that already exist. So this one here, I can choose to move that asset and control the position of that by dragging it or by just using reposition. If I use reposition, I get these axes gizmos, I guess, that are on your mouse, that I can limit my movements with regards to the axis that I want to move. So I can be very specific about moving only left to right by clicking the green axis, and moving it. The same with the red. So I'm just going to move this component all the way over there just because I can, and then I'm going to rotate it around 90 degrees, like so. So I can go and change this in any way, shape or form that I see fit. I can then save this, remembering that this is a brand new design. I've done it in AutoCAD, I've pressed one button and it's created this assembly from scratch inside of Inventor. I can then go and open this back inside of AutoCAD to synchronize my changes back to Inventor. So if I say open in AutoCAD, give it a couple of seconds, the process will update my AutoCAD DWG with those changes from Inventor. And once those changes are updated from Inventor inside of AutoCAD, it's just taking its time. We could then tweak them in AutoCAD and push them back into Inventor. So we have a complete round trip, if you like, whereby changing one thing inside of the 2D plan can update the 3D model. Updating the 3D model can update the 2D model, and vice versa. We can also start to introduce Navisworks into the workflow, which is really good for large-scale factories. Showing Inventor's great, and it's really good if you want to collaborate specifically on something that you have to model. And again, if you need to design a welding bay for some robots or something like that, to go and do that in Inventor would be great, because you can synchronize the layout, take what you need, design those bays and those robots to suit, and then push those back into AutoCAD. But if you want to walk around and visualize the entire factory, to use Navisworks to do that with the Open in Navisworks button is really, really cool. And here you can see my edits, my additions have now synchronized directly through to AutoCAD. So the factory design utilities allow you to create layouts from scratch, use existing AutoCAD layouts using lines, arcs, circles, squares to create process flows, material flows, and get feedback from your drawings. That's really useful for any of you that are planning a factory or that have a factory plan in AutoCAD and you want to know, is it going to be any better if we move the stores? What if I move this machine to a different location? or we've got a new machine coming in, where's the optimum place to put that machine specific to the processes or the flows that it's carrying out. We can use factory design utilities within AutoCAD to really quickly do those what-if scenarios on your current drawings and on your current models. We can leverage pushing that to Inventor if you need to. We can leverage edits directly inside of Inventor. Or even if you wanted to start the whole process in Inventor, because 3D, clash detecting, and making sure that you're designing that space with the 3D, physical location and size of things in mind, really, really beneficial, especially with vertical space, space for cranes and things like that. And really, that's kind of what I wanted to show. It's a really neat tool. Do check it out, especially if you've already owned the Product Design and Manufacturing Collection. If you need to do anything with regards to material flow on your shop floor, it can be a really, really useful set of tools. And that is it from me today. So thank you ever so much for your time, as always. We will be back with another can't talk, it's too cold. With another session next week. Keep your eye on our LinkedIn for what that session will be. Give us a like, give us a subscribe, and let us know what you want to see next time out. Take care. See you soon. Bye-bye.